Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a fundamental tension, really, something that defines modern professional life. It's the leadership paradox. You know that
Mhm.
feeling, right? The demands just keep expanding. The complexity is.
Yeah,
It's accelerating. And you're supposed to deliver more, solve more, influence more, but you're still just one person.
exactly. It's that constant
Wow.
strain of addition.
Right.
You're trying to add more tasks, add skills, add hours to the day until you hit a wall. But the material we gathered for this dive, it offers a really surprising, kind of counterintuitive truth. Sustained leadership impact was never designed to be carried by one person alone.
And that's the core of our mission today. We're moving beyond this mindset of just management, and we're really delving into the strategic necessity of intentional mentoring. This isn't just some feel-good HR thing.
Yeah.
It's the fundamental blueprint for building a legacy that actually extends your influence. We're looking at how great leaders shift from, adding influence to multiplying it.
And that shift it's completely non-negotiable in today's world. The organizations that are thriving now have moved from addition, where the leader is at the center of everything, to multiplication,
Mm.
to strengthening influence through a whole network of empowered, guided, and equipped leaders.
And if you cling to that old model,
Well, the sources are crystal clear. Your organization stagnates. You, yourself, you plateau.
yep.
And your best emerging talent, they just
Yeah.
get frustrated, feel unchallenged, and eventually they just walk away.
Wow, that sounds incredibly costly. So let's unpack that paradox right away. The sources ask this really provocative question. It's kind of gut check for anyone in a leadership role. What if the greatest limitation in your leadership isn't your talent or your budget or your resources, but the number of leaders you are intentionally developing?
Oof. That quote, it really highlights the opportunity cost, doesn't it? Just think about the speed of today's market. Roles are being redefined, every single quarter. Complexity is just intensifying everywhere. And when a senior leader leaves an organization that hasn't built that pipeline of successors, the research suggests that organization could lose up to 80% of its institutional knowledge overnight.
80%.
Yeah. They're immediately overwhelmed,
Yeah.
fundamentally outpaced.
So if the speed of the world demands multiplication, then our whole measure of success has to change radically. It can't just be about the metrics we personally control anymore.
Absolutely. The defining measure of true leadership isn't how much you control. It's about how much reliable, high-performing capacity you build in the people around you.
Hmm.
And this is essential for everyone. Whether you're leading a sales team, an engineering division, a ministry,
Yeah.
or whatever, it moves you from just reacting to today's fires to actually strategically shaping the future.
And that distinction is vital here, right? The one between managing a task and mentoring a leader. This is not about handing off a checklist.
No, not at all. That's actually where the process often breaks down. Mentoring, as our sources define it, it's less about transferring information and more about this really profound investment. It's about shaping character, sharpening vision, and intentionally stewarding the potential you see in someone.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting for me because the sources trace this idea back way beyond any modern management textbook. They show that the most transformational leaders in history, they didn't focus on building empires, they built people. The whole idea is that leadership is a torch you pass forward, not a spotlight you keep on yourself.
Yeah, you see this pattern of relational investment woven so deeply into human history.
Mm.
The sources give us three foundational blueprints that really show this.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. Moses and Joshua. This story is all about the necessity of proximity, of being invited in.
Right. Joshua's emergence it was anything but an accident. His leadership was what the source calls the fruit of proximity. We forget he spent 4 decades in Moses' shadow, not just watching from a distance, but being actively invited in. Moses brought him up the mountain into the tent of meeting. He was included in what's called the holy tension of leadership. He saw the glory, sure, but he also saw the immense stress, the decision-making under fire.
So for, I don't know, a modern VP in a fast-paced tech company, how do you operationalize that? How do you create proximity? You can't literally share a tent.
That's the crucial question, isn't it? Proximity in our context means things like mandated shadowing on the really difficult, ambiguous projects. Not just the easy wins. It means including them in those high-stakes, politically charged meetings where you have to share the why behind your choices. So instead of just sending them the final summary of a budget negotiation, you invite them into the messy hour-long negotiation itself.
So they see the process.
They see the whole thing. The lesson is, before you can lead people, you have to walk beside a leader through the fire.
That makes the learning so much more visceral.
Okay, so next up is Elijah and Elisha. This one is about commitment.
Yeah, this model really highlights that some things are caught, not taught. Elisha's refusal to leave Elijah's side, it showed this power of just, committed, unwavering presence. And the sources also clarify his famous request for a double portion.
This is a really profound insight because I think most people hear that and think he wanted to be twice as great as Elijah, like a rivalry.
Exactly. And that completely misses the relational and theological point. The double portion wasn't a request for comparison. It was a statement of spiritual inheritance, like the legal right of a firstborn son. He is asking for the authority he needed to continue the work, to ensure continuity, not superiority.
So in a modern office, that's the difference between a mentee trying to undermine their boss to get a promotion and someone seeking the full inheritance of wisdom to actually carry the work forward. Precisely. It shifts the whole dynamic from competition to stewardship. And that brings us to Paul and Timothy. This is the New Testament blueprint, and it's all about this tender but very intentional release.
Okay, but before we get to that third point, I imagine this is where most modern leaders really hit a wall. It just seems to go against every corporate incentive, right? We're rewarded for being indispensable.
It goes against everything. But Paul models three things. First, affirmation first. He calls Timothy my true son in the faith. He speaks identity and value over him before he burdens him with responsibility. So many young leaders fail, not because they lack skill, but because no one named their identity before they handed them a crushing to-do list.
I see that. Okay, and second.
Shared mission. Timothy learned by doing. He was on the road with Paul, enduring hardship. He got his formation in the arena, not in a classroom.
And the third part, the hardest part, the release.
The release. The world tells you be irreplaceable, but the source material says be reproducible. Paul was constantly releasing Timothy, sending him with full trust and authority to handle really delicate situations. A secure leader, they celebrate when their student surpasses them because they know their own influence has just been multiplied. That is the only source of a lasting legacy.
Okay, so we've got the historical precedent. Now let's make this actionable. How do we take these timeless relational ideas and turn them into a practical rhythm for a leader today? The sources lay out a clear four-movement model.
Right, this is the operational framework. It's identify, then equip, then empower, and finally release. This is how you move from just vague encouragement to actual tangible multiplication.
Let's start with step one, identify. In a big team with lots of talent, how do you spot the right people?
You have to look for character before competence. That's the key. So many leaders, our research shows, they focus too much on current performance or, charisma. What you're really looking for is faithfulness, teachability, a real hunger for responsibility, and humility. Remember Elisha? He was found in the fields of faithfulness, just diligently working. The mentor's job is to spot that potential in the quiet, routine places.
So find the reliable, hungry person in the background, not just the loudest one in the meeting.
Exactly. Find the people who do the small things well. They're the ones you can trust with the bigger things.
Okay, step two, equip. You said this is more than just training. You called it immersive. What does that look like in practice?
Immersive equipping it's a blend.
Yeah.
It's instruction, yes, but it's also transparently modeling integrity and, most importantly, sharing the why behind your decisions. It's not enough to tell them the final budget call you made. You have to open the spreadsheet, show them the compromises, explain the political stuff you were navigating. You have to share your own struggles, your motivations. The mentee is learning how you think, not just what you do.
That level of transparency feels vulnerable, but I can see how it would build trust and just speed up their learning curve like crazy.
It does. And that leads right into step three, empower. This is the bridge from learning to leading. And for a lot of leaders, this is the scariest part.
It is scary. I mean, what about the liability? If the mentee fails and costs the company millions, how do you balance that safety with real empowerment?
Empowerment requires calculated, safe risk. You have to trust them with real responsibility long before they feel 100% ready. But you manage that risk. You define the boundaries clearly. You provide a safety net before the project starts. And you assign them to things where failure teaches a lesson but doesn't sink the ship. Think about Paul sending Timothy. It was high stakes, but Paul stayed in communication. He provided instruction. True empowerment builds initiative. It lets them lead boldly without you having to micromanage every single move.
Right. The goal is to build a leader who can operate without you, which brings us to the final step. Number 4, release. The letting go.
This is the definitive act. It's the ultimate trust in the process. You transition them into leadership roles, ideally, roles where they're set up to exceed your own performance, and you do it with clarity, with your blessing, with public support. True stewardship is letting the mantle fall. The mentor's influence is extended by releasing authority, not by hoarding it.
This whole model, it requires a massive investment of time and personal vulnerability, so we have to address the traps people fall into. Because most people assume it's too time-consuming, or they hoard what they know because sharing feels risky.
And that path leads directly to this tragedy the sources warn about. The leader who fails to mentor,
Mm.
they often burn alone. They carry all the weight, they hoard all the decisions, and when they leave, the whole structure can collapse.
Yeah.
Because it was all built around one person, not a reproducible pattern. That's the danger of the Saul model.
The soul model. What does that look like in a modern office? Hoarding authority.
Oh, it's retaining veto power over every little thing. It's refusing to share key client relationships. It's keeping absolute control over the budget, even for tiny expenses. It's this subtle but relentless resistance to giving away any real power. Leaders like Saul believe that control is ownership, that their value comes from being the bottleneck.
So if hoarding authority is the disease, what's the antidote? How does a leader get past that fear?
Security. It all comes down to security. Secure leaders see their role as stewardship. It's a temporary assignment to manage resources and people for a greater good, not personal ownership. They embrace that paradox that letting go of control actually magnifies their long-term impact. And that kind of leadership, it's an outflow of a formed heart. It's not just a technique.
That inner formation piece feels critical. What are the character traits a mentor absolutely has to have to do this well?
The sources point to 4 essentials. First is humility. It's non-negotiable. It opens you up to learning from your mentee, and it makes the relationship real, not just a one-way download of information.
And second,
Patience. Growth it's slow, it's messy, it's not linear. This is a long game. You have to be willing to tolerate mistakes and let them fail forward.
third, and maybe the hardest one, is generosity and vulnerability.
Absolutely. This isn't just giving your time. It's giving your insight freely, even when it's inconvenient. It's sharing your current struggles, not just some failure from 5 years ago, but admitting, I don't have the full answer to this problem we're facing right now, in the room with them.
Wow. And finally, the one that leaders often get wrong. Correction.
Correction has to be firm, but it also has to be deeply tender. The research is clear on this. Correction is about cultivation, not punishment. It always has to be framed around their potential, their identity, not just their mistake. Paul, correcting Timothy's timidity, is the perfect example. He was trying to cultivate courage, not just point out a flaw.
It's so clear that this multiplication model, it demands time, it demands vulnerability, it demands personal sacrifice. But the payoff, the stability, the resilience, the generational influence, it's profound.
It is. The ultimate takeaway from this deep dive is really this. True legacy is not defined by what you achieve personally. It's defined by what you strategically set in motion. Lasting work is advanced not through isolated, powerful individuals, but through generational investment, through lives poured into other lives.
It just shifts the entire metric of success. It moves us from temporary achievements that vanish the day we retire to a deep influence that lasts long beyond our tenure. So we'll leave you with this provocative thought, something for you to apply right away in your world. Who is one emerging leader in your team or in your network that you can commit to investing in over the next 6 months? And how might your long-term influence expand, not by what you achieve alone, but by the capacity and the success of the leaders you develop along the way?